The Parthenon Sculptures are one of the reasons that I'm really proud to be a trustee of the British Museum. I really believe that they belong here. And you know, I've been trying to figure out why I think that way.
The Parthenon Sculptures were brought from the Acropolis in Athens by Lord Elgin to Britain at the start of the 19th century. Originally, they were placed up on the side of the great Athenian temple. For me, these wonderful sculptures raised the bar artistically for everything that came since.
As a playwright, I love the narrative power of this. I love its vigor. You could write speech bubbles. 1,000 people could have speeches coming out of these guys' mouths, and you would never exhaust what their relationship to each other. It's absolutely magnificent. You know, they're so beautiful. I mean, sometimes when I look at them, they really seem like they're live.
Well, it's the ultimate in alchemy, isn't it? You take cold, hard marble and you turn it into warm flesh and flowing drapery.
Well, first of all, this is the first time for me that I see the plays. And I'm very impressed, and I think they are simply perfect. I mean, they are so simple, but at the same time, I mean, they have everything.
Probably the most beautiful sculptures I've ever seen, really.
You know, to be able to come into the City of London and just kind of go back to a time where such art like this was created is, you know, very exciting.
They've become great works of art because they have being taken from the building, placed in front of the spectator. And there is another body of sculpture from the Parthenon, and that is gradually being brought down to earth as part of the great conservation program that our colleagues in Greece are undertaking. The British Museum is a centre for Parthenon studies and actively researches the sculptures. It works with scholars from all around the world, including colleagues in Athens. With them, we share a desire for better understanding of what the sculptures meant to people in antiquity, and indeed what the sculptures looked like before so many of them were broken or lost. Computer graphics can help here, especially in restoring missing parts, offering alternative restorations and even reconstructing the colours that may once have been applied to the marble.
At the British Museum, you can see the marbles next to earlier cultures that influenced the Greeks.
You know, it's amazing to think that when the Greeks were learning and admiring from these objects, they were as far away from the Egyptians as we are from the Greeks today.
But just as interesting is the influence they wielded over those that came after. Walk around the Roman gallery, and you can see how slavishly they copied the Greeks they so admired. 1,500 years later, Renaissance artists like Michelangelo were inspired by these Roman copies, as you can see in the museum's prints and drawings room.
A drawing like this study for the creation of Adam from the Sistine Chapel ceiling makes marvellous comparison with the reclining river god from the west pediment of the Parthenon. And we can see him refitting the human form to create his ideal version.
But moving on to the Indian galleries, other more surprising connections can be made.
You know, Sona, this really reminds me of the sculptures and Greek art in general, because, you know, look at the flow here, the drapery flows and the foot stands and this kind of heroic arms outstretched and the shoulders. And it's very Greek, isn't it?
It's very interesting you should say that, because this sculpture comes from about the 2nd century AD, from a place in the northwestern frontier, which is today Pakistan, and where the remnants of Alexander's army penetrated India, and so they were trying to be absorbed into the majority faith. So what do you do? How do you make that easier You dress the Buddha up to look like a Greek.
Throughout the museum, you can find exciting parallels with other cultures and other times. Writer and broadcaster Jeremy Paxman is making a film about the influence the sculptures had on British artists in the 19th century.
The Victorians saw their culture and their empire as being the kind of modern version of the Greek Empire or the Roman Empire. And at a time when they were starting to address all these issues of what constituted human beauty, you couldn't really do much better than this, I think.
The Parthenon Sculptures raises the bar for all of us, and it includes everybody all over the world, and it's for all of us all over the world.